We've got a caller, well, we've got Matt on the air, so we're basically going to him right now. Matt from Australia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, mate. How are you?
Yes, very good, thanks, very good. It's always such a relief because it's a bit of a Hail Mary sometimes when you get someone on the Skype. The line's either terrible or it's delayed or not connected altogether, and you're none of those three. So Matt, very nice to have you on the show. Big week for SA versus Australia. So
Yeah.
I personally couldn't think of a better person to talk to. And when I told Sean we're talking to you, well, his face lit up quite simply.
Like a Christmas tree.
So Matt, before we get into the actual talk, we give everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves in the show. Therefore, we get a good sort of context where the information's coming from. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about you opening up.
Yeah, so I founded, now this is probably a talking point in itself, Green and Gold Rugby, because I know you guys are going to tell me that that's actually the South African rugby colours. But yeah, I founded the Australian rugby website Green and Gold Rugby about 7 years ago now.
Hmm.
And we're probably we are Australia's biggest independent rugby website.
Nice.
And so we've got a website there, and there's a big forum where everybody can kind of get stuck in as well. So yeah, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and all the normal things.
Very good, Matt. Look, something I will give you as well. You got a good sense of humour. Something that I basically from between Sean and I, we try to keep the sport quite light, but obviously try to keep a little bit of substance in there because you don't want to talk absolute crap the whole time. And something I do enjoy about your offerings on the web is that it's obviously it's born from fantastic insights, research, and a general love for the game. But of course, you do have that lighter side. But now going into this one, Matt, as we know, Australian sport is in a bit of a dodgy place right now.
Dodgy,
And
mate. That's a euphemism. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. When you look at what's on the slide, a part of me thinks that this match on Saturday is pretty much the biggest moment in Aussie sport history since the Olympics. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, I don't know though, because we keep thinking that, and then we think, well, this is the big turning point, and then we lose it. We've managed to do that quite a few times, and the Ashes recently being a great example. So, yeah, I mean, at the moment, all of Australia's sporting pride is kind of resting on Leighton Hewitt making a comeback as 66th in the world, and
No, come on,
seeing
you
if he
can't be
can
serious.
Is that his ranking or his age?
Mate, that's where we've got to. That's it. Yeah, it's not good. We're down. You guys should walk right over us. There you go.
Well, that said, just going into the segment now with you, Sean did pretty much like a little nice stat attack on what's happened since since 1996. Sean, do you want to just remind Matt of the stats as far as win-loss percentages here?
Well, since 1996, i.e., like the Sanzar era, was an odd game before then, but let's just ignore those for now. Australia have won 83% of the matches played against South Africa in Australia, and
83.
and outside of Perth, they've won all of them.
Yeah, so it's not looking so good for us, eh, Matt? But obviously that's a big shot in the arm for you. How are you feeling essentially about your team? Obviously it's been quite an up and down. Well, I wouldn't say up and down. It's been down and not so down. Obviously the loss to the Lions, bad start to the year. There's been there's been some crap amongst your players as well with that trailer park trio of Beale and O'Connor and Cooper acting up again. But then you've had
Yeah.
two kind of convincing defeats now against the All Blacks. What's the thought going into this one as far as, like you say, turning it around?
Yeah, I'm not sure the guys know which way's up at the moment. And Ewan McKenzie's been in the press this week, sort of pretty much saying the same thing, which is, all I can do is kind of keep changing and looking for somebody who can make it work. So, and there's not a lot of options. So it's kind of back to the wall stuff really for the Wallabies, which might be a good thing. And also with it being at Suncorp, that's always that's a good place for us. We tend to kind of do our best work there. So, I guess in getting into the detail. In Australia, we're fascinated with our tens and what goes on with them. We call them the 5/8s.
No, please
And
tell me you don't. That's what those Kiwis do, and they're trying their best to always bastardize this rugby game of ours.
I like the 5/8 thing. Keeps me up on my fractions. Keeps me on my
It's
toes.
stupid. Who's the sixth eighth? Who's the seventh eighth?
well, mate, they go second five and all the rest of it. So we don't go that far, but they're
Fractioning
basically
fractions.
they're completely fascinated. Well, we're fascinated with what the 5/8's going to do, and it's kind of like the endless quest. And so I think the latest roundabout this weekend looks like Quade Cooper's coming back in.
Now, do you see this as a good move? Because Heineken Meyer, and we're trying to work out if this is mind games or not, Heineken Meyer has been suggesting that this is the big threat that he was worried about.
Well, I mean, Quaid does badly against the Kiwis. Although, having said that, if you look at his stats, again, this is where stats can be deceiving, right? His stats are very good. He's actually got a better record versus the Kiwis than Australia does over the same period. But I think all of us are so scarred by the big losses he's had, including the semi in the World Cup. But you guys probably don't want to talk about that World Cup too much. That I think that's kind of scarred us, and he's kind of left with the mark of a guy who can't play against the Kiwis. I think against you guys, for whatever reason, maybe it's styles, maybe it's a head thing. He seems to be able to play a little bit freer. I mean, it was a sort of a thing with Matt Giteau as well. Matt Giteau always looked better against you guys for some reason. I don't know what it is.
He was amazing, yeah.
Look, generally, I think the last 4 years, the Springbok record against Australia has been comparatively pretty poor, home and away. I mean, the Peter de Villiers is. I mean, we lost. Our rate of losing to Australia at home was probably the biggest it had ever been in the history of the game. I mean, we won. So it's been a couple of years of those players being in a generation of Australian players. They've generally had the wood on the Springbok sides.
Yeah, but Matt, just looking at for me, the most interesting thing about this Aussie side is they've always got a decent forward pack. They've always got these sort of mongrel loosies that just spoil everything the South Africans ever possibly do. They really are the biggest sort of breakdown cock blocks we've ever come across, and that is including McCaw. But now the backline for me, what is the dynamic that's really going to settle there for them as far as the 5/8, the fly half? There's been a couple of guys tried, and I don't see Matt Tamua, I think his name is Sean, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
The Brumbies
for me, he came out of nowhere. I don't think he's international class just yet. O'Connor was tried at 10. There's always other talk about even bringing Giteau back at some stage potentially. For you, what is the greatest fit for the backline going forward, and actually, as you say, moving up from where you are?
So I do actually think Tamua needs persevering with, but I think obviously Mackenzie needs to kind of change the record a little. I mean,
now, Matt, are you saying he must be persevered with, kind of like Steve Smith in the cricket sense?
Yeah,
similar analogy.
So, I mean, we say, look, he doesn't have that international look about him. Well, he's now played kind of 2 international tests. Unfortunately, both of them going the wrong way. But the second one, he started to look a bit better. I think he's a very different type of Australian 10 in that I think, and it is my personal opinion, is that I think if he can get some more international level rugby under his belt, he's got that temperament where he's not looking to make every play, not looking to make something amazing happen, which a Quade Cooper can fall into, and feel that he just needs to make it all happen all the time. And then when you come under pressure, either when the Box get their tail up and you're up on the veldt, or if you're against the Kiwis wherever, then that can fall apart. Whereas I think Tamua's got a bit more of that grit. He's got more of a kicking game as well, and he just needs to settle a little bit. That's my personal opinion. I think what will happen is we'll keep probably shuffling back to Quade. He'll look great in the odd game, and then when it comes under pressure and the pack isn't performing, then he'll start to fall away. But I mean, look, let me turn this around. I've been looking at your guys' game in Mendoza, I think it was, from a couple of weeks ago.
Why? Terrible match.
I apologize in advance for making you sit through that game.
Well, no one made me do it, but I've been looking for hope. So I heard about the scoreline in the first match, and I thought, oh no, what's going on here? And then saw the second match, but I must admit, even though you guys are kind of groaning there, I mean, there's some formidable signs, I think, from your team. That back row that you were talking about, us putting mongrel back rows together, that's a man mountain sort of back five you guys put out there. I mean, that's got to inspire some confidence, hasn't it? Or are you guys scratching your head?
No, indeed. We're very happy with the current loose trio because PSB is doing what he should be doing, is signing autographs and going to press conferences for brands he represents. And we've actually got an 8th man, the former Dwayne Vermeulen. So, look, obviously nothing personal towards Perry. He's a great chap, but I just think when we are competing against hardened international players like you guys put on the paddock, as you say, you need a loose forward that's really going to get in there, really get stuck in, because that's exactly what the competition is all about. So we're very happy with that. We've got some worries with Locke. I think Jean-Ray Kruger is about as soft as an ice cream on a hot summer's day. And Flip van der Merwe is a walking yellow card most of the time. I know he has improved, It's a bit great. I think he's got the runs this week though. So.
And some question marks around the defense of our outside backs as well. I mean, it sounds.
Sure.
I mean, we list all these things now. Suddenly, we sound so unsatisfied with the team. But there's just some. There's just some questions around the kind of JJ Engelbrecht, Willie Leroux, Bjorn Basson zone. There's a little bit of guys who are untested around a hard test match.
Yeah, Sean, I'm going to have to stop you there. The reason we challenge Matt is because we're trying to build confidence in ourselves by him being sort of self-deprecating towards the lack of chance the Aussies have got going here.
Hey, Heineken got this started praising Quade Cooper all the way. We've got to continue the good work.
I just want to know every single nook and cranny or the weakness of this Aussie side, so when I start mouthing off from Friday night after a few beers, I'm talking from a position of strength.
Well, look, I mean, so come on then, I'll help you guys out here. I think the other bit that we're all still kind of squirming at is got to be the front row. There's no surprise, I guess. I think.
Sorry, I just want to interject there, Matt. I just want to. What is the deal with Ben Robinson being dropped? Because that was a surprise to us, and I'm not sure the reasoning behind it.
It wasn't just you guys, I can tell you. I think everyone was absolutely gobsmacked over here as well. There wasn't a lot of reasoning for it. There is a history here, though, that you might be aware of, which is that Ben Robinson's been dropped a few times in the past. The first time was the big shocker was when Ewan McKenzie was coach at the Waratahs a few years back, and he dropped Robinson for a good half a season, and that's when Robinson went from being more of a marshmallow to actually getting his act together and turned into a proper international prop. He's been dropped at international level before and again came back better. But I don't know. So I don't know if it's mind games, and it's the kind of perennial kick up the backside that they want to give him. Mackenzie's basically just said form. I just don't, that he's not up to it. But yeah, I think we all kind of left kind of scratching our head here. And considering against the Lions, he seemed to be the prop that did okay versus Ben Alexander, who was the guy who got yellow carded, and he's the guy who's been trotted out twice now to start against the All Blacks and have trouble. So we're scratching our heads the same.
Another member of that front row, Stephen Moore. He's played a hell of a lot this year, going all the way to the finals of Super Rugby, the Lions tour, and now he's full rugby championship.
And one of the most outspoken hookers about the idea that he now has to hook for the first time in his life. It's such an interesting dynamic, these scrum wars. We've had a generation of hookers that have never hooked the ball.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, no. Well, no, Steve Moore, I mean, as far as his fatigue, he's going to be fine. He doesn't actually have muscle. He's just a ball of gristle.
Yeah.
He can't be hurt. So he's going to be fine, I think. He'll just bounce along. But it was another, we always seem to be, Australia in scrums, we just always seem to be surprised by the opposition are doing something nasty, that they're actually boring in or whatever it is. And the latest one was, we didn't know that they'd push when the referee told the 9 to put the ball in. That's really, and we even had Andrew Blades, our international scrum coach, on the magazine show, Rugby HQ, basically complaining about it. I don't know if you saw this, it was last week, and he is on national TV saying, we're a bit surprised by this thing. Maybe the Kiwis were ahead because of the ITM Cup, but they did this amazing move because the ref was saying to the 9 ball in, and as soon as they did that, the Kiwis would start to push. Our hooker would lift their foot up, and we'd start going backwards. And apparently, this was a big surprise. It's just that it's not engendering any more confidence that we're in any way got our act together there. So that's going to be interesting to watch, because I thought you guys, even in that second test, at the beginning of the match at least, you really put even the Argentinian scrum under some pressure. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it is quite a positive point. Matt, just look at the key matchups for you going into this Brisbane test. The history and everything's on your side, of course, but yes, there are some sort of glaring worries here and there. Both teams have them. What for you are the key matchups going into Saturday's game?
Well, I guess the one you kind of led out with it. It's one of those places where I think we've managed to sucker punch you guys quite a few times, and it's an interesting one.
What, the referee?
Is for us is the open side flanker. For us, our number 6, our number 7, your number 6. And I mean, that's one of the places where for years, and we just used to love it, turning up with a George Smith, and you'd trot out 3, kind of freakazoid huge guys, and he'd be just down there pilfering away.
Yeah, same with Pocock. The flashbacks still hurt.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, there you go. We're back to that quarterfinal, right?
Yeah.
Which is refereed so beautifully, obviously. And then then you found the guy. Oh, what was his name at the Cheaters? With the scrum
100%.
100%.
Exactly. And we thought, damn, they figured it out.
Yeah, finally. And then we discarded it.
And now we're back. Now, don't get me wrong. Flo Lo, he's pretty handy over the ball.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's quite got that kind of scavenger pest thing that Liam Gill or Pocock or Hooper that he'll probably be facing will be. So that's going to be interesting and seeing how you'll. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you've got a formidable back row there, and I think it's going to be but it's going to be that's going to be a really interesting thing because I think. In watching the tape, I think that's why Argentina took you guys to the wire, because the number of turnovers they forced, not necessarily through scavenging, but just through, blowing through the ruck was really interesting.
It's just being abrasive for 80 minutes.
It was that sheer force managing to get over the ball as opposed to kind of just sneakily getting your body position right. It was interesting, the Argentina game in that sense.
But that was interesting, yeah.
But Matt, it's just funny how when these two teams come together, it's seldom it's going to be a free-flowing score fest. I know when SA and the All Blacks have played in the past, there's been a couple of really good games, end-to-end stuff. When it comes to this, it's so often decided around the breakdown. And it's something that kind of frustrated a lot of people when Heineke Meyer came into charge. He essentially said, we don't need a 100% kind of player. We're looking for ball carriers. Now, your open side flank doesn't need to be the ball carrier. You've got a talented 8 and 7. Centers are built like Lucy's nowadays anyway.
Or a line-out option.
Then basically it was pinned on the 100% is not a line-out option. But how many line-out options do you want?
We have a tendency, especially against Australia, to come up with 5 line-out options.
God, a bus on that.
And no one fetching the ball. Yep.
So, right from the start, he made it perfectly clear. And I think, last year's obviously... We don't look back at those games because they don't really have much relevance now, but this is the real, I think, acid test for this theory. Yes, I think Francois is a great number 6, but he's not quite... Well, I hopefully stand to be corrected here. But when it comes against the Aussies, you go back to the old cliche of horses for courses. These games are always decided on the breakdown, and I think you've got to be mindful of that. So, it'll be a big thing to see. Outside of that, any other matchups that really interest you?
So what I'd love to be able to see. So I think you talked about those outside backs defending. I mean, watching the tape today, one of the things I've noticed is you guys are playing with quite a compressed defense in the midfield, which is then leaving some gaps around sort of between exactly as you said, sort of where that compression ends, and then like outside centre and wing. So I'll be interested to see what we can do with Izzy Folau. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Izzy Folau play in the flesh, but he's amazing to watch. So I saw him in Super Rugby this year, and then went and saw too many Lions tests for me to be happy with. But he's one of those guys where he gets the ball in hand and everyone just takes a breath and stands up because he just makes stuff happen.
So true. You're supposed to have so much more time. He glides.
Oh yeah,
such great balance for a big guy the way he runs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he's a big guy with pace. He can step off one side and gas the other, and then he's amazing in the air. So I just sort of think, and one of the criticisms of him has been that and the team is that we didn't use him enough. If I was, and I'm an ex-forward, so don't ask me how they do this, but I think there's some space there, especially if they can run 2 attacking lines maybe. Or isolate that defensive end, then I think, as you guys identified, I think there's a bit of weakness there. And someone like an Izzy Folau kind of targeting that, I think could be really interesting. So that's the other guy I'd have my eye on, see what we can do there. He's been wasted the last 2 games, really.
Well, I agree, and there's obviously some concerns about JJ Engelbrecht outside centre sort of defensive frailties potentially, and if you are attacking that channel, I don't think they're going to start with Bjorn Basson. I got a feeling they're not going to do it. But if you're going up against Engelbrecht Basson with Izzy Folau coming at pace at a good angle,
it's hard to test as it gets, really.
That's pretty tough. Yeah. That's pretty tough. Well, Matt, we are unfortunately...
The other thing we haven't done with him, was just... and put him in the air as well.
Yeah.
I don't think him over some of those wingers, and he was actually on TV saying he'd like to get more of the ball in the air. So that's another one that I think you might want to watch out for on the weekend.
Well, those are the big things. Matt, we are unfortunately out of time. Where can we find you as far as writing, Twitter, all those kind of things, so we can hear more of you going into, more of the games, the Rugby Championship?
Yeah, so you can find me personally on @Matt, 2T's, Rowley, Rowley, on Twitter. And it's greenandgoldrugby.com. I'm sure all your South African listeners will be able to remember that as they swear about it under their breath.
Yeah.
But yeah, greenandgoldrugby.com. Come and have a chat. Let us know what you think.
Okay, if you are watching us visually right now, we do have the website up. We're going through it. It's a very impressive site. Matt, just quickly, how many people are involved in the making of the Green and Gold rugby every single week?
It surprised me the other day. I did a bit of a count, and I guess if you say staff in inverted commas, because there's only 2 people that actually get any pay out of it, and I'm not one of them. There's about 50 people who work on it. So we've got about 30 guys who can contribute in lots of different ways, whether it's at international staff or we now try and cover our schoolboy rugby. That's where the passion really is in Australia around rugby. Obviously, we cover Super Rugby, but then also in the forum we have a lot of guys moderating because forums can turn into shit fights very easily, and we try and make sure that doesn't happen. So yeah, there's about 50 guys who put stuff in. Yeah. Sorry, is this a family show?
No. Carry on. No, we're totally agreeing with you. You should go to Sport 24, not Student ZA, when the smallest thing of race comes up. Wow, you want to see a shit fight?
Just get a cup of coffee and scroll down.
Great stuff, Matt. Well, look, we are going to podcast this up so you can listen to it back. And if you have caught on to this a bit late, we've been talking the chances of the Aussies going into the Aussie versus Springbok test this weekend. As always, our history is terrible in Brisbane. We've shown you the stats, and regardless of who the Aussies put up, it's always going to be a tough test. Just want to leave you with a quote that I picked up from following Matt on Twitter and obviously looking at the greenandgoldrugby.com website. There's this really great thing you guys put out a while ago. I'm not an alcoholic. I only drink when my core's offside. So to give you an idea of the kind of stuff you can find in Green and Gold Rugby, that's pretty much sums it up. Matt, thanks so much for joining us. And I'd like to say wish you the best of luck, but I really hope your whole team gets pneumonia. We really need this win, and I'm not going to make any bones about that. But it's been great chatting to you. Yeah, catch Matt on Twitter @Matt Rowley. That pretty much sums it up, huh?
Thanks, fellas. May the best Lucy's win.
Yeah, jeez, that doesn't fill me with any confidence whatsoever.